Hello, dear students. Very happy to introduce our guest for today's In Conversation series. Very happy to have Mr. Derek Zahler from Boulder, Colorado in the United States. Derek Zahler has worked with the United States military in the Special Operations Forces, has been trained in tactical engagements, which I hope I will get him to speak about if that is possible from his side, whatever he can speak about his operations with the US military. He holds a graduation from University of California, Berkeley, and he's also done his post-graduation from University of North Carolina. And he is a very, very enthusiastic person about fitness and all things fitness. He and I got introduced in the context of strength athletics. I'm also interested in strength athletics, and Derek was the person who introduced me and helped me get inducted into the prestigious 1,000 pounds club. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you very much for having me, Ajay. This is very exciting for me to be a part of. I've watched a few of your shows, and this is fun for me.
Great, Derek. Just for your top of mind recall that you will be addressing a group of very enthusiastic, motivated students in the age group of 12 to 18 who are the students of the physics chamber, my academy in the state of Kerala in India, and of course all the other students who are subscribers to our YouTube channel, Facebook page, etc. So you are actually speaking to a large number of young teenagers who are actually studying science and mathematics. I'm hoping to bring in some element of science learning also into it, but purely from your perspective. First of all, I would like to ask you, what has been your driving force? What prompted you to join the forces?
Well, that's a big question. I joined the United States military shortly after 9/11. I had just finished my studies at the University of California, Berkeley. And like many young graduates, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I felt passionate about something. And at the time, it was a bit of patriotism, but I guess more deeply it was a kind of a self-discovery, a journey of kind of trying to figure out who I was. And the military seemed like a great idea at the time because I had come from a very strong athletics background. I played 2 sports at the University of California, and I figured, what could I do in a professional capacity to continue my, I guess, my athletic pursuits or my physical pursuits. I didn't feel when I graduated that I was really done. So it's not really a very thoughtful answer, but the military was very welcoming, and they had a couple programs that were intriguing, and that seemed to be the best use of my time and energy at the moment, and that was about it.
Great, Derek. I also understand that you have had experience in combat and tactical fitness. You have served overseas, etc. Could you just give a little description about your learning from all these years in the US military? I also understand that you have been trained on counterterrorism, interrogation skills, etc. Well, these are stuff that we watch in movies. I mean, I'm sure I would like to know.
Yeah, so I joined a special forces unit through the Army. And that is most kind of keenly noted by the American soldiers that wear green berets. We're a small team. We are most generally trained in unconventional warfare. So there's a lot of things that we touch that you may have heard about through movies, through TV. It's probably not as exciting as you're imagining it, but that's where I ended up. I also ended up on a combat dive detachment. So it was a little bit ironic. I joined the Army to get away from the water, and the first thing they did was they put me in the water. And I guess that's, generally how the military works. But yeah, as far as tactical fitness and all that goes, the evolution of at least my experience and my training in the Army was pretty unique. When I left the university, I had a whole bunch of training with Olympic lifting, a lot of power lifting, a lot of those training techniques that you would generally assume athletes go through at that level. I go through the special forces training. It's very, how do I say this delicately, but it's very boring and it's very old. A lot of push-ups, sit-ups, running, and it didn't really encapsulate what we did as special forces soldiers. Strangely, when we got going, at least when I got to my unit and we started exploring other ways to stay physically fit, Glassman had just released an interesting program called CrossFit. So there was a number of us that had known about Olympic lifting and powerlifting and said, hey, why don't we just incorporate this into our push-ups and sit-ups and swimming and all that kind of stuff. And it became a real mishmash of techniques. And we try to adapt all these techniques to the various things we saw in combat. And and that's kind of what got me intrigued. And that's what kind of got me thinking about what does tactical fitness mean. And in about 2008, I really, about the time I was leaving the military, dove much more specifically into that idea of tactical fitness and functional fitness in those regards.
Great to know, Derek. Just to connect with our students, would you say that the training that you had in military, the fitness training, the tactical fitness, etc., it has some scientific background? Have you been able to connect what you learned in, let us say, high school science, etc., simple science? Do they have roots in your military training also?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Everything you go through in military training or military physical fitness has scientific backing. And like the scientific process would have you explore, you begin with a hypothesis, something that you generally think to be correct. And then you're going out and you're testing that hypothesis a number of times. And you're really trying to isolate that variable that gives you marked success. And again, you do this over and over, and you do it with a number of people. You try to have a statistical significance with the population you're dealing with, and hopefully you come out with something that's worthwhile. But it is very scientific in that regard in terms of the process. When you see something that is much more well established, you'll have a lot of biochemistry that helps support it if that's what you're really into, and you're drawing. Fitness is not very fitness is very multidimensional, and it's got a lot of facets that you need to integrate, and so it's kind of the most appropriate way is almost scientific to go about it in every regard.
All right. Thank you, Derek. I mean, our students are familiar with your name because I have been referring to your name in class when I explain several physics concepts, because I've always been fascinated by the connection with anything physical and the science of physics, because I've been a physics teacher for close to 25 years. Now, when you were playing sport for your school, university, etc., I understand that you have played two sport, and I also see a couple of sport items which are of interest to our students, because those items are not very popular items in India. Because if I may ask you, could you please head over to that location and bring that helmet and the playing object?
Oh, sure. Okay, so you caught me, so I will share. This is a bit embarrassing, but I will do this here. All right. Hopefully this shows well on video. But yeah, this is an American football helmet. See, it's taken its share of abuse over the years. Actually, this was my helmet I used in high school. So I was the same age as many of your students. Kept it because It had a lot of emotional significance to me. It set an interesting trajectory for me in life. And I don't know how many truly impact or combat sports you have in India, besides wrestling, but football is kind of a oddly unique thing to Americans. Very, very, very sturdy forces at work there, and that's physics at its finest. And the helmets that help supposedly keep us safe. So I always keep that up as a little bit of a reminder and a bit of nostalgia. And I kept a couple of these. These are footballs, again, American football. That's actually where I went to school. But yeah, they're game balls. And it just kind of, it's nice to keep around to remind you where you started. And it's important to know where you started in terms of knowing where you're going to. So.
Great, Derek. I've always wanted to ask this question. I've never played. I've always wanted to ask this. I have never played American football. I mean, obviously, because we don't play that game in India. One thing that has always fascinated me is that how do you actually predict the trajectory of the football when you throw it? Because to me, it looks like it's all wobbly around the air. I mean, anything which is very spherical, let us say we play a lot of soccer, that is the football in India. Cricket is probably the national sport now. And both these sport have playing objects which are perfectly spherical. So the trajectory of that thingy is very, very clear. But then when you have an object which is very oddly shaped as the American football, how do you actually predict which way it will go?
Yeah, that's the best answer I can give you and your students is probably heuristics. It's seeing it thousands and thousands of times. And you come to your own conclusion, your own formula of how that works. If you were really to analyze an American football and its flight and how that flight trajectory can be disturbed, it gets a bit complicated, as you can imagine. I mean, you're dealing with you're dealing with a lot of different forces as the ball rotates, but it's tough. It's not easy, and that's why in this country they end up paying the guys that can do it really well a lot of money. It is tough, and I'm not trying to take anything away from that part of it. So
great. Now, and this is a hardcore combat sport, right? You said it's a player-to-player combat sport. I'm sure that you would have had your share of actual head-on butts, etc. And how is that taking a toll on your physique, your body as an athlete?
Wow. Yeah. So it takes its toll. Like I would guess most athletes, you have occasional acute injuries. But the impacts that you suffer in American football, which is an enormous debate here in the United States, and it's ever evolving with the medical science that they're finding out. But in my experience, it has been more the slow, long-lasting things. In my specific case, my joints haven't failed me, but they have definitely let me know they're aging quickly. Which has kind of shaped what my modern or my current physical prowess allows me, and so yeah, I mean it's hard to kind of really quantify that experience or those long-lasting impacts really well. It's more, but what I can do is just give you what my experience is, and there's so many of us that have repercussions from the impacts that you suffer over and over.
Great. Now, Derek, I would like to quickly check with you if you would like to draw a parallel. You have also studied post-graduation and a structured training program in college also. And now you are addressing a bunch of students who are actually finishing high school. So many a times students are stumped with, how do I actually structure my training, my studies? Would you like to give them some advice as a military professional?
Sure, absolutely. And the best advice I can give is several parts to that. One is you have to really listen to yourself, and you have to understand how you focus best and your process of learning and studying and growing. And that's a very difficult question for young people because you've been exposed to a lot, but you haven't been exposed to everything. And as a military professional, I would say you need to make things habit. And making routine and habit a part of everything you do, whether that's studying, structuring your day, and doing all the small things well. Those two things are probably the most important pieces growing from a young adult, a high school student, into more professional situations is understanding yourself and making those parts habit and building from there, because once they become habit, you can do some pretty great things and set yourself on a pretty amazing trajectory.
I'm so happy that you brought out those two words, Derek, because these are exactly the same words which I tell my students, that you need to make it a routine and a habit. There are tests and exercises that we do over and over again. And my dear students, you hear from somebody who has served in the US military in various kinds of operations, etc. The person himself saying that it is the routine and the habit that makes a person really thorough. The same principles apply everywhere. Now, Derek, another question that I would like to ask you is, now that you have started your career outside of the military after coming out of it, have you felt that your service and the stint at the military is helping you in your current profession?
I think absolutely. I think we'd be a little bit remiss to say that our experience really don't shape and help us in some way through a lot of things. But very specifically, the military definitely gave me a few skills I did not have before, and it really helped highlight what made me successful within the military. Because there's so much repetition, there is so much routine, you learn very quickly which variables or which parts of yourself or your habits make you successful. And you learn very quickly also what makes you unsuccessful. So when you try these things over and over and you find that you are not succeeding or you're failing, you say, okay, well, I'm going to try to play away from those weaknesses and towards my strengths. And the military has definitely taught me some of those things. And for example, in my current profession, or at least in business, patience is a very important idea for me to continue to underscore and to revisit, because I think a lot of us, at least at this day and age, are impatient, and we expect immediate results. We expect growth to happen very quickly, and patience is really one of the big things I took away from the military. And that's not very straightforward, being a part of such a regimented, institution, but you learn to just kind of wait for the opportunity. You learn for things to develop at their own pace and capitalizing and making those opportunities for yourself.
Great. Students, I would also like to share some good news about our conversation now, is that first, this conversation, just for the record, it is date stamped on the 24th of August 2020. That is the Indian Standard Time. And Derek is joining us from Colorado, which is like almost 12 hours behind the Indian Standard Time. So that's like half the way across the world, I should say. And that's the power of technology. We are able to speak. And the great news is that Derek and his wife are expecting their first child. And he's going to be a proud father any day now. And that's probably why he has actually got his door half open behind, because his wife might actually probably need him anytime. Am I right, Derek?
You are absolutely correct. That's also why it's hard for me to stop smiling. I am excited. The door is cracked. I am on standby. Our child could arrive any moment. I don't know. So I do have a bit of anxiety, and I very much appreciate technology being able to fit this into my rather turbulent schedule at the moment. So yes, these are exciting times, Ajay.
Wonderful, wonderful. And we are also going through the tough situation of the pandemic. If you care to share how exactly is the coronavirus pandemic thingy happening around in your community, everything is under control as the best it can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very charged question, especially in this country. We are very much a population divided on how that should be handled. Um, I will say, like most things in life, everyone's doing the best they can with what they have. We make the decisions we can based on the information we get. It hasn't very negatively affected at least my baby situation here. But you know, I'm sure just like in India, it's a bit troubling when a lot of society has either closed down or made real drastic moves to disrupt what we would consider the old normal life.
Great. Now, we've had a conversation for about 25 minutes now. I would really like to thank Derek Zahler for joining us from Boulder, Colorado in the United States, taking time out from his really exciting phase of welcoming a baby into his family. The first child is always super exciting. And students, you can be sure that when we follow up on this episode, we will also keep you updated about the baby and the name, etc. when Derek shares that with me. Thank you so much for joining us, Derek, from Boulder, Colorado. And thanks a lot from all of us at the Physics Chamber in Cochin, in Kerala, in India.
Thank you, Ajay. This has been really great. I wish you and your students all the success in the world. And I really appreciate you having me. But yeah, you're always in my thoughts here.